All right. He killed the power. All right. Okay, so here we are. We're live. Welcome. I done some new things to my set today as I slowly work. I gotta look at you over there. Sorry, I gotta move this over. I hate when I do that. Sorry. There you are. Hello.
Is that Beaker in the background?
That would be Beaker. Yeah, Beaker's been back there for a while.
Where's Dr. Bunsen Honeydew?
We don't have Dr. Honeydew. I have a good, like, I actually collect along with my son, if you don't, many Muppet things, and the Muppets are one of my favorite things in the world. So this is actually a very expensive Muppet piece, believe it or not. You would not think that probably, but yeah, this is it's like a total reproduction Beaker. It's your action figure Beaker, basically.
For all those who have the idea, Russ and I have not been approached to become Statler and Waldorf.
Right. Oh, you're very close though. I guess I could do, you know.
That's very funny, Mike.
There we go. So that's Beaker, yeah. It's back here.
I like how you have the cup or the.
He's broadcasting the NHL Network.
Is that what that is in the background?
No, I'm not broadcasting the NHL Network. This would be hilarious if I could get this to work. Hold on. Oh, check this out. Here we go.
Well, I do like the bro cream in the hair. That looks good.
It's not bro cream. It's called showering, and it's just finished.
It's called water.
It's called showering.
I like how he said that without even looking at you. Like,
oh, this look.
Like one about his business.
How about this? Here we go.
Oh no! Almost dropped it. Almost dropped the Stanley Cup.
So what this is
he almost did Jacques Martin. Jacques Martin was handed the cup the other night, and he did an oopsie, and somebody had to help him with it.
Did he drop it completely, or was it like very?
He was within an inch of dropping it completely.
Who on the show said that? They were surprised somebody hadn't dropped that because somebody had said that like the day before.
Right here, I did.
Yeah, and way to go, Mike! You almost jinxed it.
There you go, exactly.
How about that for Beaker back there holding the Stanley Cup? That's not every day.
So now we have a picture of Phil Kessel carrying the cup in the background.
Ah, there we go.
Your love for Phil Kessel is undying.
Let's take a nice cheap shot of Phil Kessel again.
Don't break the baseball game. That's a good game.
Let's get started. There's lots of hockey news. Come on.
There's nothing to talk about, Mike. Come on, you know it.
Whose dog is barking?
That's my dog.
I got my dog to bark, too. It's pretty funny. All right.
That's Kaya. Kaya's barking.
Hi, Kaya.
Yeah. All right, so we will start the show. Yes. I got a new computer, which is kind of cool. I almost had it hooked up for this thing. So I finally went crazy, and I bought I traded a couple things in. I sold a couple things on Craigslist. I sold an arcade game, and I bought a real serious computer, like a gaming computer that should do me well. It's not. This is the last show on this computer, but everything will look exactly the same. It's gonna be running this to a different monitor. But my new computer is really fancy. And,
I feel bad though. Like this is like you're basically sending a computer out to pasture that's still okay. This is like what happens in the workforce.
No. This computer is not going to pasture at all. This computer, when you have children, this computer goes down the line. This goes to the kids.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they can get off of their aging laptops and stuff like that. So, yeah, this is this computer has just been nothing but problems for me though. So this is.
So you give it to your children.
Right, but from there, they're not running hockey websites from their house.
Are you trying to make Flyers fans sad by looping big-time playoff losses in the background?
Yeah, that's my goal.
Okay.
That's actually which one? That's the Stanley Cup final in the background.
This is
but I wasn't sure.
This is the NHL YouTube channel, so it could be a lot of different things. I don't know what it is. It's just the NHL YouTube channel running in the background. So that's all. So I cannot be responsible for anything that comes back there. Remember the one time I played Slapshot in the background and we had that fun scene? That was always good.
Yes.
I forgot there was a fun scene in Slapshot that we shouldn't have on the show.
We have to say something about that. The longest scene of its kind would never happen nowadays. It was like, you watch it. Yeah. I remember watching it with a friend of mine 2 years ago, and we were watching it, and we were like, wow, this is long. And then it's still going on, and we were like, wow, This is really long, and it was still going on.
I know.
It's the longest scene of its kind that I can remember.
I know, I agree. And, considering it was Slapshot, that's pretty crazy, It was a hockey movie. It was a hockey movie, for crying out loud. I also got this very meta thing going on with my shirt, my microphone. No, you got to like that. That's not every day you can do that. Come on, have a shirt with a microphone that is your microphone.
Or did you just lean up against it?
Yeah, that's it. I just leaned up against it.
Talk into your shirt.
That's what it looks like. I know. I can always talk into my shirt, and often I do. But let's start the show. from there, I guess.
Bell.
Brought back the bell, the original bell. Like, if you remember, like when we first started the HockeyBuzz cast, I would ring a bell if I agreed with someone. I'm gonna do that again. I like that.
I don't remember that.
Which means I'll never hear the bell.
No,
I wasn't invited in those days.
No, yeah, the bell is. This is going back to the good old the olden times.
He was gonna say the good old days, and Russ.
He was.
Josh Rimmer was on the show, and people like that, and
Anyone who remembers the good old days was me because I've been here all the time.
Yeah, Mike used to say that proudly. Now it sounds like a sentence, but that's okay. Gone from being like, I'm proud to be one of the oldest people around HockeyBuzz to I've been on HockeyBuzz the entire time.
It looks like that contract you can't get rid of on a team.
It's true. Can't buy him out either.
I have a no move clause.
Yeah. Buying out would not be a good idea. Here we go. Ready? Hello, Hockey World. It's Wednesday, June 15th. 2010. 16.
What?
It is not 2010. Nice try.
Sorry,
it is behind him.
I think I just cursed for a second. That's what's going on, right? I'm watching 2010. That's exactly what happened.
I'm Patrick Kane. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, just kidding.
I'm Michael Leighton.
Yeah, sorry. Hello, Hockey World. I'm Mike.
Wait, here's the puck. I see the puck. I know where the puck is, by the way. But anyhow.
He's really trying hard to start the show.
Yes, please.
Hello, Hockey World. It's Wednesday, June 15th, 2016.
I'm Michael Acello.
I'm Jillian Fisher.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I am Eklund, and you're watching the Hockey Buzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes to you every Monday through Friday at this time to discuss the comings and goings in the hockey world, so you don't have to watch or pay attention or anything like that. And I have to admit before this, I was watching the Gordie Howe funeral which is on sports on TSN in Canada, and I don't think it's on in the U.S. Is it? It probably is.
It was. I think I saw there was a Gordie Howe something or other on, so I think it was.
They needed to show replays of the playoffs on a certain network.
Yeah. So I was watching it, and it was funny. It was really well done, first of all. And the priest who's running the whole thing is phenomenal. And he's hilarious because he gets up there and he immediately starts ripping off stats, like NHL stats. Like it's just like from the priest, And he's like, if you can
get me a hockey fan, I mean.
Oh, he's a total hockey fan, and he's just like, let's talk about, and he's like saying, no player, won more games, and no player had more goals, and then of course there's a whole thing now that if you combine Gordie's goals and assists, and you look in the WHA and the NHL, and his other time, wherever else he played, I guess it's just the NHL and WHA. If you combine them together, his goals come to one less than Wayne Gretzky, which is pretty funny. One less. The Gretzky had one more goal than him.
Great. We have the Archbishop of Analytics.
Yeah, so he's throwing that. Yeah, that's right. No, he was really good. He did a great job, and it was just kind of fun. And it's just like only in Canada, or whatever, or possibly, Detroit, would you see such a thing like this? It's really pretty impressive.
Which is basic.
Yeah. Russ just tried in the chat room that Billy Leno scored in the background, and that's distracting. Sorry, I think I
was at that game. Is that game 4?
I don't know. I'm running. This is just the NHL.
Billy Leno scoring is distracting to Terry Pagula because he paid him about $15 million to not score.
Yeah. Yep.
I am. You guys know that I'm one of the biggest. I was one of the biggest Billy Leno supporters. And
yes, we know, Ak. Along with Kari Ramo, you have this weakness.
I'll be honest. I liked what I saw too at the time. I mean, I did.
Billy in Philadelphia.
He wanted too much money, though. That's what I thought.
Yeah, no, he did want too much money, and they wanted to get Yager, is what happened. So
and the Sabres, in their infinite stupidity, decided. Leno worked for Philadelphia as a winger. The Sabres signed him to put him at center, which he proved in Detroit he couldn't do. So right. that was like Darcy Regeer's folly. But let's not waste time with the.
Right. Yeah. No. Definitely. Well, Phil Kessel is in the news today. He came out and said that there's a good chance he's going to bring the cup to Toronto. Gotta love it. I think this is if nothing else, I think this is just phenomenal for Phil.
Did he hear what I said? Did he hear my suggestion? Like, is that what we're talking about? Like, he's going to take it to show it, like be in Toronto with the cup, or like he'll go play in Toronto? Is that what he said?
No, just go play. He'll be bringing it to Toronto. He probably still has a house there, right? Is what's going on.
I mean,
he probably does.
Because that was my suggestion, is that he should go sit in front of that square with the big Toronto sign and just like be an American, like have like his Hawaiian T-shirt, hot dog, sit in a little kiddie pool, and like have his arm around the cup. That was my suggestion.
He's gonna set up
the cup to Toronto. I mean, somebody has to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's gonna set up in Nathan Phillips Square with the cup in, with his elbow on the cup and eating, hot dogs to his heart's content. No, I mean he's got friends in the Toronto area, and I don't think this is a troll job. I just think that it's either he brings it to Minnesota, or Wisconsin, wherever he's from. I think
it's Wisconsin. He's from Wisconsin.
From Wisconsin. Thank you.
He's a Badger.
Yeah. No. Well, yeah. So. He'll probably, he would either go there or go to Toronto, where he, lived for, 5, 6, 7 years. Yeah. So it's
clearly he's trying to do it on the QT, so he's going to bring it to Toronto.
Right.
Well, no,
that's awesome.
But
oh man, perfect.
I mean, honestly, it's now the story is now over with, because the deal is basically done. The Leafs got the 30th pick in the first round. Phil Kessel's got his Stanley Cup. He's rehabilitated his image as much as he possibly can. The Leafs have moved on. I think the fans have moved on. And I think Phil Kessel has moved on. He was happier than a pig in slop after winning the Cup, as he should be. So I don't see it as much of a story. I mean, I know that there was a little bit of an internet scam a couple days ago that said he'd put an ad in the Toronto Star, which was basically it was a complete lie. So yeah, honestly, I don't think it's
people do things like that. It makes me think that they're really not over Phil Kessel when they make up a story, or like they keep referring
I agree with you.
It makes me think that they're really not over him.
I agree.
No, I think Toronto fans will always troll him, but it's not his fault. It's the organization's fault, and this is a previous incarnation of the organization that decided to pay a guy who was not a core player $8 million a year. It was a mistake for the trade. It was a mistake to re-sign him for that amount, and it was a mistake to build a team around him when he's not a cornerstone guy. He's a very good complementary player, and what he did in Pittsburgh proves that. I just, looking at the point of view of the Leaf fan, I don't think they're focusing on Phil Kessel anymore. They're focusing on Austin Matthews and the hope and possibility and likelihood maybe that they sign Steven Stamkos on July 1st. Phil Kessel is passé. It's over.
Yeah. I'm with you. I mean, he should be over, but like I said,
he'll never recover from that trade from Toronto. I agree.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he has. I think. No,
he'll never get over it, Nick. I mean, winning a cup is a small price to pay. I mean, really. He left Toronto, Eck. He will never be the same.
Yeah, I don't know. Yes, I like your sarcasm, but let's move on to the trade that happened today, which is the big news of the day, which the Blackhawks have traded Bryan, Bickell, and Teravainen, Teravainen, that would be, another, as we're on the topic of strange Finns today, to Carolina for a second rounder in 2016 and a third rounder in 2017. Obviously a salary cap dump trade, if there ever was one.
Yeah, and the second-round pick that they traded in that deal is the second-round pick that they got in the Eric Stahl deal.
Right.
So
right. So that goes there.
I think go unnoticed today, I have to say.
Yeah. This is This makes up. This does a lot of This opens up a lot of questions. Okay. But this is something the Chicago Blackhawks had to do mainly to sign Shaw. Andrew Shaw. This is mainly about him, and that's what most people are saying, and I do agree with that. And this
yes and no.
Yes and no. Yeah, yes and no. But this is also about. This is definitely they lose a lot of talent in this trade, in my opinion.
They do. I still think they underutilized Teravainen. I don't think they even got what Carolina is going to get out of that player.
No.
Here's the other thing too.
What?
They've been quietly hemorrhaging players every year now to try and hold on to their core. Joachim Nordstrom's also in Carolina doing pretty well. That's another guy they got from the Blackhawks.
I know.
Just sitting back and collecting players. It's a great thing for him.
Well, the Hawks are at that point now, like where the Dallas Cowboys were a few years ago, which is like, to me, they're at the point where they feel like anyone who pulls a Blackhawks jersey over their head is going to be great, and that's like that's just the thing. Anybody who wears that jersey, they're going to be amazing, and they have gotten really fortunate. I mean, look at what happens this year, with Panarin and with and other players in the past that have stepped in whenever they have made they can win Stanley Cups and just dump players and still come back and be competitive.
That's what happens when you have a good core, though. When you have a good core, we saw it with Crosby this year. You make other players around you better.
Exactly.
So I think that's a huge part of it. So keeping that core, I think, is important, and it benefits other teams too because they get some other talent out of it when they have to, like Bryce said, hemorrhage some talent.
Right.
Yeah, but this is a great trade for Carolina.
But the Carolina Hurricanes are basically the Sanford and Son of the NHL when it comes to.
Oh, stop! That's
well,
not.
No. Let me finish my point. They take on Chris Versteeg. Now they turned Versteeg into a draft pick, but they took him as a dump deal from Chicago, and this year they take Bickell. They take Bickell on as a dump deal, $4 million contract. They get Teravainen, which I agree with you. I think he was an underutilized player, but we know from the past, we know from Joel Quenneville and his MO, there are players who are good players like Trevor Daley who just didn't fit into the Chicago system that they moved out and they helped someplace else. So I mean, I have a feeling, Russ, that what's going on here is they think that guys like Kyle Baun or Ryan Hartman in their minor league system can move up and effectively replace Teravainen as a fourth line guy. Whereas I think that other teams.
Come on.
Look,
it's tough to talk over that, Ack.
I think
it's Sanford and Sons team. You got it. You mentioned that. Come on, you got to get it. Sorry.
I think Ryan Hartman is ready. I agree with that. I don't think he's a replacement for Teravainen, though. I think there's a difference there because I think they're different players. But I just want to see if Mike walks up to Ron Francis at the draft and calls him Lamont. I just want to see if that happens.
Lamont.
I mean, obviously, yeah. I mean, but this is the way teams like this have to do it. Like, this is not. And what they're doing here is they're getting some talented players with some really good experience as well.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it because Toronto was the dumping ground last year for Brooks Laich, for Colin Greening, for Milan Mahalik, for Jared Cowan.
I think they're different, though. I think they're different.
They got 3 players out of this. They got Sorella from the Rangers, who they just signed.
Yeah.
They got Nordstrom from Chicago, who's a good player. And now they just got another player, Teravainen. That's 3 players in 2 seasons. This is like filling out his roster with really good young talent.
Right, and they're taking advantage of the fact that they have a ton of cap space and they need to get to the cap floor. Yeah. This is an opportunity for Bickell, who will probably play in the NHL next year. They'll give him a chance, and maybe he can reclaim a bit of his career after being relegated mostly because he's lost a step, but also because he just didn't fit in their plans anymore. But Russ, I think one thing is that you get Teravainen, they signed Sebastian Aho, who was a star at the World Juniors for Finland. That could be a nice little combo as maybe a second or third line combo for that team. A lot of speed, a lot of skill, and that's part of this move that's really good for the Hurricanes.
It could be. I mean, look, they're gonna move out Ward. They moved out Stahl. Eric Stahl's selling his house, so he's not coming back. Right. I mean, these are big changes for this team, but right now, I like the job that Ron Francis has done. If he had more money to spend, boy, he'd really be dangerous. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, no, he would be. He would be, and I think, there's a lot. I'm happy for the Carolina fans because of all the crap that went on the last couple of weeks. Like this to me, that they go out and they get themselves some players who can play. I mean, the difference between, in my opinion, and the players who ended up in Toronto is that they don't see the players that ended up in Toronto as part of that team's future. Where the players that are here, these are two players that could potentially be a part of the Carolina Hurricanes' future, and should be a part of them. I think Bickell's a better player than he's a salary cap player, but he at times has shown a great deal of
he's got some talent.
He's got some talent, but let's face it. The reason why Chicago had to dump Bickell was, one, they want to sign Shaw, like you mentioned. The other thing is they got absolutely killed by the fact that Panarin had the year that he had, and his bonuses on his contract, I believe, are like over $2.5 million in bonuses. So their backs were against the wall in terms of the cap, and they were lucky to get a 2 and a 3. I think Teravainen is a good player and he'll succeed in Carolina, but to get a second and a third round pick and dump Bickell and not retain any salary is a victory for Stan Bowman. But I think
you shouldn't offer bonuses that you don't think players could reach, right? I mean, so I don't ever feel bad for him. It's like that 200th show bonus that Eklund's offered you. I mean, we'll see if that happens.
I think we already passed it, probably.
Like 600.
Yeah. Okay, another name to bring into the fray as we talk a little bit rumors here today. Now, okay, I must address what I said in the blog too. That this could be a move to get into the Evgeny Malkin sweepstakes. That is insane because, and when the source told me that, the first thing I said to them is, how could you have 3 players making that kind of money? Like, how could you have, and that, that's just what Mike would say to me, and other people would say to me is, how could you have 3 players making over $8 million? I mean, Malkin's a $9 million player, over $9 million, right? So 3 players over $9 million, that's a ton of money. And but again, what Chicago seems to like to do is build this core foundation and then fill the rest in with really low-priced players. So the way this plays out, that's one of the teams that Malkin would go to. I mean, the only thing stopping Malkin from being traded right now, I am told, is the teams he wants to go to don't have cap space. So when one of the teams he wants to goes to makes a trade to clear up $10 million in cap space or whatever they've done here, you have to start wondering, there
is one more move, Ek. I mean, remember, Chicago did sign the leading goalie for the Swedish Elite League this year, and would they make Darling the starter and move and move out Crawford and say that?
I wouldn't say no right away at all.
I wouldn't say no right away, Mike. I mean, if they want Malkin, they may do it.
And remember this. Crawford was available at the trade deadline. He was absolutely 100% available at the trade deadline. And at last year's draft, he was discussed too. Not at the trade deadline. He was available at last year's draft. That's what I'm thinking of, because the draft has become a trade deadline, right? It was last year's draft that Crawford was in discussion, for real. I mean, there was no question. I talked to people who flat out told me he was on the table. So
that would create the space right there.
That would create the space. And if you like the Swedish goalie, and if you like Darling, and Crawford has serious value, and also remember they're going to have to trade something. You're going to have to trade something for Malkin. So you're going to have. Pittsburgh isn't going to get away with no salary back. I mean, there's going to be salary coming back. So at the end of the day,
I mean, it could be somebody like Anisimov in the deal. Could be somebody like Kruger in the deal.
Right. You get like $4 or $5 million into the deal as well on shorter term deals that aren't going to be as long as Malkin's. It suddenly starts to get really interesting. And then if you say, okay, I mean, the question I have about this that really makes very little sense to me, and again, like, I just report the rumors. I'm giving you now my logical side, which I don't do on the blogs. So that's what this is for, right? What I thought Malkin was getting out of Pittsburgh for was to be the number 1 center on a team. Now you're going to his team with Jonathan Taves on it. Not that he's maybe not the number 1 center and Jonathan Taves becomes the number 2, but.
Well, you mentioned as one of the teams that he possibly would go to was Los Angeles, and that's the same situation there. And the Kopitar is the number 1 center.
Well,
Kopitar will be the captain because they've stripped Dustin Brown of the captaincy there, but he's likely going to be the captain. So if he goes to L.A., he's going to be playing second fiddle to Kopitar. So that's where that one doesn't make sense. I mean,
but, I think the bigger issue is we've never seen Malkin eating a Chicago-style hot dog or Chicago pizza or pan pizza. These are big issues.
If he wants to be the man, the number 1 guy, then a place like Montreal or Boston that doesn't really have a healthy number 1 center, a guy like Krejci always gets hurt. Those make more sense than in Chicago's and LA's because those teams are perennial contenders and have number 1 center.
Unless they don't want them. Maybe Chicago wants them and some of these other teams don't, Mike. I mean, we don't know who's showing the interest and who isn't, but this would be a move I could see Chicago making, but they have to do more.
This is a Scott McDonough style move. There's no question about that, Russ. I'm with you 100%. This is Scott McDonough who runs the team. I mean, this is not a Stan Bowman move. John McDonough. Sorry, John McDonough. Thanks. Who runs the team? He basically runs the team. He runs the team in interesting ways, and also runs the team very PR based and very much, And I've heard stuff. We've all heard stuff that they're not. And I bring this up just out of crazy discussion points, but is it possible that Patrick Kane, there's still stuff internally that's going on with Patrick Kane that we don't know about? It is possible. And I mean, I know that Bowman and Kane are very tight, and I doubt that Bowman would move him on his own.
No.
But John McDonough does have control over everything, and we've seen that in the past. So I'm not saying there is. I don't know of anything.
Can't rule that out either. It's possible.
I mean, think of this. I mean, Patrick Kane has a full no move. If that's what's going on here, and the ownership of the Hawks and the team president McDonough want to move Kane, I think you can sell that move to him by saying, well, you're going to go to the Stanley Cup champion and play with Sidney Crosby.
Right.
Yeah, that's a pretty solid deal. I think that's pretty appealing.
Right. Exactly.
Is that in some ways a trade that works for both sides? I mean, I don't think it ever works when you're trading Patrick Kane away or Malkin, but I mean, it's tough to figure out like how does this work. I'll tell you another trade I heard that does work for both sides after this. Go ahead.
Well, no, I mean and we're extrapolating from this rumor a lot that we don't know about. But
we're just discussing this right now, so this is speculation.
If all of a sudden you traded Patrick Kane to the Penguins, then you have two forwards in Kane and Kessel that are basically the same type of player. And I'm talking about not they're phenomenal offensively, but defensively they have a lot to be desired. I mean, and I think that the Penguins weaken themselves up the middle, which most teams who win a Stanley Cup are very strong up the middle. Whereas you look at the Hawks would have Taves, Malkin, and Panarin up the middle.
Yeah.
I don't think with the emergence of Nick Bonino, I don't think Penguins are that hurt up the middle anymore. See, I think that's the surprise for the Penguins is the play of Nick Bonino maybe has made Malkin a little bit expendable in the sense that he can fill in. I mean, look, if you have Patrick Kane, you don't really have to worry about being that strong in the middle on that line anyhow. He doesn't have to play with Crosby.
Right. And it would be an interesting move. I mean, there's a lot there to it, but and another trade that I heard about, and this is just speculation too. I need a sign in the back like speculation or actual rumor because this is not a real yeah, this is not the bell made my dog go nuts. It's pretty funny. The dog now thinks that there's a bell. It's okay. There's no one there.
Sorry.
But here's the thought, and I'm just gonna throw this out to the panel for the hell of it. PK Subban for Evgeny Malkin. Does it make sense?
Yes.
I mean, you think it makes sense?
Yeah. I think it makes a lot of sense, especially in the. I mean, Montreal has been looking for that big #1 center for years. And PK Subban, from all indications, the ownership likes him, but the ownership gave him that contract based on that Norris Trophy winning year. He's the highest paid defenseman in the NHL, and if you look at what happened last year, that team went nowhere with him healthy and with Carey Price out. So I think that sort of augmented his value and his place in that organization, and the no-move clause kicks in on July 1. So if Malkin was available and he was amenable to going to Montreal, I think they would do that in a second. And the salaries are a wash. It's 9.5 to 9.
Right. I don't know. I think that I think Subban is the better player in this situation. I think defensemen are harder to get. I think Malkin is a top 5 player as a forward, but I think Subban's a top 5 defender. So I'll take a top 5 defender over a top 5 forward any day of the week.
Sure.
Noah Juleson, we got to see where he's at. If they feel like he's close, then maybe they can do it. That's the only way they can do it. Otherwise, defensively, they just suffer too much. But Juleson's a heck of a defenseman. He's not going to be Subban, but he can play the position. True. I don't know if he's NHL ready though.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, their defense is in transition. Markov is at the end of the line. They've been trying to trade Alexei Emelin for a couple of years. If they move Subban, I mean, they're definitely transitioning to a younger group with guys like Nathan Beaulieu, probably taking a bigger role. But
yep.
I mean, I think the thing is that you're counterbalancing Subban's worth with his spot and his place on that team, and the rumors of some internal strife, and also the rumors that they want to move him, or at least look into moving him before the no move clause kicks in. So I think it adds up, and I think Pittsburgh. Yeah. I mean that no name defense. I mean, I thought it was their Achilles heel, and it won them a Stanley Cup because they played wonderfully. But can you get that going again for another year? If you want to try to win another cup and make this a dynasty, you have to improve that defense. And trading for PK Subban might be something that they could do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, as a Montreal Canadiens fan, partially, which I am, and I just would have a really tough time with this one, because I mean, PK is one of my favorite players in the NHL. First of all, so I have to throw that out there, on top of it that maybe I'm a little biased, but he's one of my favorite players. Malkin is definitely. I mean, when Malkin's on his best, like he was in the last couple games of the Stanley Cup Finals, he might be the best player, as best forward in the NHL. There are times when Malkin looks better than anybody out there, by far. I mean, he looks better than Crosby, he looks better than Taves, he looks better than everybody. He's stronger than any of them. He's physically, he's just a bull. His ability to stick handle is crazy. Malkin just has every possible. But he's not always 100% there. The question is, will he be 100% there if he becomes the guy on another team? And he seems, I think he believes he will be,
Right.
And I think that's what they're selling here. That every time Crosby's gone out, Malkin has thrived and done really well. So Montreal fans would, they would eat up Malkin. Malkin would be a perfect fit for them. But again, I do bring in, and I don't know if it's about money with Malkin. I do know that Malkin took, Malkin. It has been about money for Malkin in the past. Because if you remember when the whole signing went down, Crosby took less to stay, and Malkin didn't. Malkin did not take a discount to stay in Pittsburgh, and that was fascinating at the time. Malkin makes more money than Crosby, as we all know.
Yes.
So I mean, and that there's definitely issues that ever since then.
He doesn't have endorsements like Crosby has endorsements. He wasn't worried about it from that regard. That's why it's worked.
Yeah, no, that's that. The endorsements is a big thing, and Crosby makes a ton of money, probably as much money on endorsements as he does in playing hockey. But he does make a ton of money.
PK has 6 more years at $9 million, the highest paid defenseman in the league. He's 27. Malkin is making $9.5 million per season for the same length of time, 6 more years. So
yeah.
that
No, I mean there's a logic to the numbers, right? That makes sense. Yeah. But this is that's a gut check moment there for Bergeron up there. Bergevin, I'm sorry, Bergevin up there. Yeah, because that's a real. When you trade away PK Subban, now this makes Pittsburgh really dangerous. I mean, if Pittsburgh gets PK Subban, that's because they have a lot of players. They basically have been building a stable of players that are not as good but similar to PK Subban. They would add like the best player of PK. The PK Subban is the prototype for all those defensemen that the Penguins have. He is what they want. So
you want to have a team based on speed, and you have one of the best skating defensemen in the league who jumps into the rush like crazy. I mean, it would fit into the method that they had used to win a Stanley Cup. So I think it would make sense, and that would sort of counterbalance what you're giving up in Malkin.
Yeah. Plus, he brings so much good attitude to the team too. Like PK is such a positive. There is all this internal strife stuff about Malkin pisses me off because there is none of it. And the only thing that exists a little bit, and PK has even been unbelievable about this, is the fact that Therrien's an idiot. Sorry, I'm sorry to say this, but Michel Therrien has said nothing but really bizarre things. And PK, every time it comes out, it's like, oh, there's some strife with PK. It's not. PK is just Therrien just spouts off at the mouth and goes after PK, kind of because he knows PK won't come back at him, and he knows.
There's a lot of people that are jealous of PK Subban because he gets a lot of attention, but he doesn't he's not doing everything for attention.
No.
He's just a lightning rod for it. But he's his whole family.
Charismatic.
Yeah, I mean, I think I brought this up before, but I knew a player who, when rumors were coming that he was coming to Philly, was like, I don't want PK, and because he's got all this attitude, he's like crazy, and then this player didn't go to Montreal, but another player went to Montreal, and who's friends with that player from another team, so follow that somehow if you can, and that player basically said, PK is nothing like that. Like I thought PK was like that too, but he's nothing like what everybody thinks about this, like all glitzy and all that stuff. He's not. He's just a flat out awesome teammate and has nothing bad to say about anybody. Isn't a show off. All these things that you kind of people had the wrong perception of. As Malcolm's behind me, it's pretty funny. So let's just saw that there. But yeah, there's a lot of different opinions there. I wonder. I'm going to put this is my blog for tomorrow, and I'm going to put it out there and see what Montreal fans think if they would like to make this trade. So. Get your comments ready, guys, because it'll be a really good. I think it'll be a really fun thread.
I don't like the only reason I don't like the idea of PK in Pittsburgh is because then I have to like PK a little less because he's on Pittsburgh, and I don't like that. 'Cause I like PK. I think he's a great player, and as you talked about it more, I'm like, wow, that is a really good fit for for both teams. So that one happens, that would be a little. I mean, I'm happy for both organizations, but as it's showing you my fan here that's a little bit of a bummer.
Montreal, though, that you're right. I mean, that would be make it even harder for me to have the same kind of things. I mean, it's already hard enough because I think Crosby's a good guy. I think Kessel's a good guy. Now Subban's a good guy, so that's really a pain in the neck for me. But I agree. And this is the question I have from Montreal's perspective. Who the hell's playing defense if you lose PK Subban? Because Markov's almost done. Emelin is basically done. I mean, Emelin's not done, but he's slowed down.
They've tried to trade him for 2 years.
I know they're trying to move Emelin. They have. I mean, what prospects do they have coming? You talked about the one, Russ, but
they also have John Scott. Come on, Eck.
Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot about that.
Well, I mean, this is the thing, actually. If they do trade for Malkin, then they have a glut up the middle in the sense that they have Plekanec, they have Galchenyuk. They could move one of those players for a defenseman. I mean, if it's simply you want to change the team cosmetically, or you want to move out Subban, you want to bring in that big number one center, then you'll have some excess forwards that you can maybe trade for a defenseman. I think that would work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to trade for one. I'm looking. I saw Morgan Ellis had a really nice year for Montreal. Maybe they call him up. I think that's Ryan's brother, right?
Yep.
So I think he gets a look. Juleson will get a look. He's getting over a shoulder injury. They might be able to fit in both of them, and if they were able to fit in both of them, they'd be in pretty good shape. I think they have a kid, Simone Bork, who has a lot of offensive talent, but he only played 3 games in the A at the end of the year last year, so he's not ready yet.
Yeah, and they gave up on a former first-round pick in Jared Tenorti. So I mean, they may be, but I mean, they could plug the hole in a temporary sense by either making a trade for a guy like a Shattenkirk or signing an older veteran like a Brian Campbell for a 1 or 2 year deal as a free agent. I mean, there are methods to be able to at least. I mean, you're not going to replace. If you trade PK Subban, you're not going to replace everything that he is, but if you can add a body or two, and Price is healthy, then they could succeed.
So you guys are against John Scott? You don't want him? You don't want to bring back John Scott?
I love John Scott. I have decided that NHL fans
will bring back John Scott. There you go.
I'm not saying John Scott as a starter or anything like that, but I'm saying in general, NHL fans break down into 2 categories. Those who enjoyed the John Scott story and those who are annoyed by it.
You're right. Cool. Very much so. I agree with that. There's no question that really. Those are the 2 worlds of hockey fans. So. Oh yeah, for sure.
What I will say is that I would like to see PK Subban and Brent Burns be on the same team because I would love to see their suits together. It's totally not relevant, but they would have a great contest of who could outsuit each other.
Thank God the Stanley Cup final is over with, so we don't have to see those plaid.
Oh my gosh, I loved Brent Burns' suits.
Oh my God,
I thought they were great. He can keep rocking them all the time.
Keep going to amp bets for your suits.
No, I'm with you. Brett Burns. I asked him about his beard, if it's coming off or not, and he said no, that it's a lifestyle choice. I haven't heard what Thornton's doing yet with his beard. I think it's coming off from talking to him. I would be shocked.
I mean, his wife hates it, so it's coming off.
Yeah, and which brings up one thing I had to just ask Jillian, because we have a woman on our panel today, because my wife was bringing this up too. She's like, I would never be able to date a man with a beard like that. How about you? Were you okay with it?
I could handle it in the playoffs. I would. That large of a beard, though, I could respect it in the playoffs. But I would want it to at least be trimmed when the playoffs were over.
Well, Joe Thornton's going to keep his beard for an extra couple weeks because he's going to go to Gettysburg and be part of the reenactors.
It was a pretty epic beard, so I'd have to be a little bit respectful of the fact that that's a pretty solid beard he grew, but I would want it gone.
It was. Before we get to the prospects of today, I want to talk about buyouts, because we are in the buyout period has begun today. And no, we talked about before, the rumors of me buying out Mike is not true. But some other names are possibly true, and we know Cowan, first of all, is who the Leafs have put on waivers with the intention of buying out. That's already going to happen.
It's so bizarre because he had a backloaded deal.
Yeah.
The final year of the contract was $4.5 million salary, $3.1 million cap hit. So the Leafs actually get a $650,000 credit.
This is
It's
the
like a
strangest deal in the
coupon.
world. I know. It's
Yeah,
like
it's
you
like
never
a-
see those kind of deals ever.
Like a coupon for $650,000. Like if you walked into ShopRite, you'd be like, "Here, I have my $650,000 coupon. What could I get for this?"
I'll
Yeah,
take.
talk about an agent who just set you up to be bought out. I mean, this is like
Right.
it's like a crazy.
Yeah, this is not a great agent deal. I have to agree with that.
No, and the funny thing is that Cowan practiced with the Leafs for about a week, and then
Yeah.
Lou Lamoriello said, "Go home. We basically we don't want you to get hurt because we're going to buy you out. You can talk
So
to
wait,
other."
so Cowan, Robida, and Lupul are like all on the same team, but not on the team.
Well, no, I mean, I don't know where Robida is. He's missing an.
Robita's a
there's a
very
big
interesting
deal.
case, but some people want the Leafs to be investigated over Robita. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on there.
The missing
that
persons
whether he
report.
was really hurt or not this year is very
Being
suspicious.
paid. He's being paid.
Yeah, but he was but there's
The
some
three
I
members of
know.
team. Whoa. This is 3 members of team salary cap. That's what these guys are.
yeah.
Yeah,
No, he was. I mean, the Robidot thing, only because Toronto was so horrible and nothing mattered.
Right.
But it flies under the radar. But if that's a precedent that's set there,
yeah. Well,
that could be an issue.
yeah, but the thing is, the PA is not going to make an issue out of it because
No.
he was paid. He was
Right.
paid. They basically said to him, he played 19 minutes the last game of the preseason, and then all of a sudden, in between then and the beginning of the season, he was having chronic leg pain
And a
and
season-ending injury, yeah.
but the thing is, they didn't put him on LTIR.
Because they didn't have to.
They didn't, and right, and all the well, no, but I mean, even if they did have to, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
any cause of investigation would be if you're trying to circumvent the salary cap by,
Yeah. No.
and that's what I'm saying. They paid him his money.
I'm kidding around, but I'm just saying that there's a lot of questions. You're right. There is no case. There's no. You can't really investigate anything. But there's a lot of people who are I've talked to people who are like, wait a second, what happened there? That's gonna be crazy. So buyouts, other players that could be bought out today, or in the next couple of days. Is this how long is this window? Is this 48 hours? Is that what it is?
No, it's till
No, it's
June,
just 48 hours after we had this whole discussion before. Yeah.
June
Sorry.
30th. Till
So yes, it goes till June 30th.
Oh, that's
Um,
right. Yeah.
Dustin Brown, who we just talked about, was stripped of his captaincy. Thomas Vanek, which further enhances the idea of Malkin possibly going to Minnesota, which is somebody that's still the team I would look out for Malkin. It's still my number one team, but it goes back and forth.
I don't think Brown will be bought out, by the way. I don't.
You don't think Brown will be bought out?
well,
Dennis Seidenberg, who Ty mentioned before on the show. Callan, we talked about that. R.J. Umberger, Philadelphia Flyer. R.J.
That's a
Umberger.
guarantee. That's an E6.
That's an E6. I know. And then Dan Girardi's been mentioned too. I heard he's not getting bought out though.
Not happening.
I know, but there are a lot of people who rumored him buyout.
Fans want him to be bought out, but the Rangers have already said they're not doing it.
Right now, and the funny thing is, I don't know. Dan wants to be bought out. Is that what you think's happening?
Say that again?
So Russ, you think Dan wants to be bought out?
No. I said fans.
Oh, fans. I thought you said
want
Dan.
Dan Girardi to be bought out, but the Rangers already said they're not going to buy him out.
I heard that if he was bought out, and they said they're not going to buy him out, but the concept here is that and I only bring this up because these rumors kind of point to other things.
Mhm.
Is that the Maple Leafs had some interest in Dan Girardi at a low price, and what I wonder about this and why I bring this up is not that I think that's going to happen, but I bring this up in terms of there's some really kind of odd mixed signals going on in the rumors that I'm hearing, and like Mike, like you're not agreeing with them, which is totally fine.
It just goes. I mean,
It goes counter. I agree with you. I'm not saying it doesn't, and I agree with you completely that it goes counter to what we've heard and what we've kind of expected.
Right.
But it makes me wonder.
But here's the reality. I've looked at the
What's
buyout. It's not a great buyout for the Rangers right now. It's a little too soon. They eat a little bit too much. At the end of the day, they could put Dan Girardi, and he could be the number 5 or 6.
Yeah.
He's not totally kill you in that spot.
No, he's not going to kill you at all.
Better than Dylan McElrath. So why in the world are they rushing that? They'll just have to live with the salary. I think that's what they're going to do, at least for another year.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean the buyout for Girardi would be $12 million, a little over $12 million spread over 8 years.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
Yeah,
I agree.
that's ridiculous. So yeah, I just don't think that's happening.
It doesn't make sense, but I have to report it because it's out there and it's from a real source. And
no, I think the Leafs would take him for a 1-year basis if he were bought out. If they were in that in-between stage still here, sure. I think that would happen. Yeah.
And the reason I keep bringing up these strange things with the Leafs is because I have a theory, okay? And I've been chasing this down for a while with Toronto, and I think that last year the Leafs did a very good job at sticking to this one message that they were going to do, and they brought in Lou Lamoriello kind of already when the message was going, and he played along with it. But I don't know that that's
along with it. He beat it to death.
I know he beat it to death.
We saw more Lamoriello in the press last year than we've seen of him in the last 10 years.
Right, but I'm with all that's happening now. Might get Stamkos, going to get Matthews, going to get Marner. Could get back. Could get other players too. There's other players involved that they're going to be making some serious moves. I feel as if the pulling has begun. Like the pulling on when we are going to actually how long we're going to ride this tank nation thing out, and when we're going to and that pulling is inevitable with Lou Lamoriello in there. Because
I think it's less Lamoriello and more Babcock act, because I was at the final press conference at the ACC, and you could see the frustration on Babcock's face about how that team is played. Now, I
think it's equally both. I just think Lamoriello is way better at disguising it than Babcock does. Babcock wears his heart on his sleeve, but Lou's thinking the same thing that Babcock's saying.
One way or the other, the team is going to improve. You can't get much worse than they were last year. It's just a question of what direction they go.
Right.
If they sign Stamkos, then some shorter-term fill-in stopgap moves are very possible. If they don't, then I think they stick to the rebuild plan. They go with a lot of young guys. They may re-sign guys like Parento. They may do those 1-year short-term deals. But I think those will be done to basically what they did this year. Trade Sean Mathias at the deadline. Trade your UFA. I mean, they've got five UFAs that make at the end of this year that make over $16 million. So they'll be trading the Colin Greenings and the Milan Mihaliks and the Brooks White.
Aren't they close to their 50 contracts already? Like they're
48, but I think they're probably gonna end up. I mean, that's why I don't think they're going to offer Garrett Sparks a new contract. That's why I think they're probably going to trade Tyler Bozak, because they're maybe trade a guy like Peter Holland. They're going to dispose of some deals, and in the deals that they make, they have RFA players like Josh Levo and Stuart Percy, who are one's a former first-round pick. They played a few years down with the Marlies. They're RFAs, and they cannot clear waivers. So I think they're either going to keep them, and those players will play on the Leafs, or they're going to move them in the summer. And I think
Levo has some value for sure. He is more than Percy, I think.
Yeah. I agree. All right, let's get to our prospect of the day. Who is our prospect of the day, Mr. Russ Cohen?
Well, I wanted to make sure we made Jillian happy, so it's Jacob Chychrun.
Da-da-da-da. By the way, Jacob Chychrun, real quick. When I was going to the Pittsburgh game, I was walking up. You might have seen my Snapchat on this one. Jillian taught me well. I loved your tweet. I loved your tweet that you were a proud parent of me on Snapchat.
I felt like such a. I was like, now I know what parents feel like when their child does something well. You're like, I taught you that. I'm so happy.
You did. You taught me that, and one of my first Snapchats, besides my awkward one with Bill Meltzer, which was like, hey, it's Bill, and we just stood there like, hi.
I still need some help, Jillian.
I continued filming him for like another 10 seconds, but was running into a fan in the concourse with a Jeff Chychrun Pittsburgh Penguins jersey.
Wow, that's great.
So I just had to throw that out there. Jeff Chychrun, who is of course Chychrun's dad. But that and I don't think Jeff Chychrun played on the Penguins for very long at all. And to have it was a signed Jeff Chychrun Penguins jersey on top of it. That's crazy. So anyway, just throw that out there.
What is it? Signed in blood?
I know. But continue on with Chychrun. I thought that was pretty funny.
That is cool. He's a big strap-in defenseman. He's 6'2", 214. He's got a six-pack. The guy looks the part. He could improve on his skating, though. That's the one part of his game where there's going to have to be some improvement, but so far so good. Plays in all situations, penalty kill, power play. He came back strong from a shoulder injury. Mike and I were watching that all year and just sort of watching the progression. At the under-18s, he looked really good. He really, the way he sort of leads the puck up the ice, he's very good at it. Even though he's not at the best speed right this moment, he's got a great shot, like an amazing point shot. And it's really a wrist shot. that a lot of times he's putting through the net, which we see a lot of defensemen doing now because slap shots you wind up, it gets blocked, right? So those are good things. He plays the angles well. He's safe on defense. You know, once in a while at the under 18s, I saw him missing the net. I think that's something he could work on a little bit. But other than that, there's very little not to like. I literally, for another outlet, just did a top 10 mock draft, and he's in it.
Another outlet, Russ? What the hell, man?
Another outlet, yes. And I whored myself out to yet another outlet. And all right.
Continue. I'm sorry. You can name it. No, what you can name the outlet. We're not.
No, it's Go GTS on Twitter. But you know, I didn't know we were exclusive, Ek. I'm sorry.
No, anyhow, no, that's all right. Yeah, it's all right.
You guys haven't had to talk yet. Oh.
I'm also seeing other bloggers, Russ. That's okay.
But I do think he is a guy. I have him ranked 10th on my rankings, and I do think he's a guy that it's going to be very hard for teams to pass on him, especially if one or two defensemen are off the board before he even goes. Then I think someone is going to jump in. But I think he could be the second defenseman taken in this draft. I do.
Well, he may have a six-pack, Russ, but I have a keg.
Yeah.
But I mean, the funny thing is that at the beginning of the year,
how you could joke about it, but then if I call you a fat guy, then it's a whole different thing.
Right. Well, yes, it's self-deprecation there, Russ. I mean, come on.
Okay.
The funny thing is that at the beginning of the year, you know, you never know what these rankings will lead to. But Chychrun was ranked number 2 behind Austin Matthews by a lot of people. And not to say he had a terrible year, but his stock fell as the year went along. He's still, I would say, in the top 3, along with Ulevi from London and Sergachev from Windsor. A lot of people seem to think that those two players can step into the NHL earlier than Chychrun can. I'll be surprised if he gets out of the top 10 because I've heard a lot of stuff about Buffalo being very interested in him at number 8, and Buffalo I think needs.
Well, that's who I put him with in the mock draft. I did.
Yeah, I mean, it makes all the sense. I mean, I think that they need that big physical presence on the blue line. They have Ristolainen, who I think is a legitimate future number one defenseman in the league. He had a really good year last year, but the depth on defense, other than a guy like Jake McCabe, is a little bit lacking. And I think that Chychrun, and I don't think Chychrun would step into the NHL with Buffalo. I don't think they'll rush him. I think he'll go back to Sarnia for a year. But he's one of the top defensemen and a physical specimen. I just think one thing, and we talked about this all year, Russ, the constant comparisons between him and Aaron Ekblad made him look bad because he's not Aaron Ekblad. But there aren't many Aaron Ekblads out there.
People have to understand how physically dominating Aaron Ekblad was, even in juniors. Like, I knew of the Aaron Ekblad, like, persona, right? But then I watched him in a game, and then after the game, even in street clothes, I was like, oh my God, this guy is just, like, already a man. So I knew it's totally different than Chychrun. Chychrun sort of, to me, he's built more like a Bouwmeester than an Ekblad, which is fine. I mean, I don't think there's a problem with that. Jay Bouwmeester's had a heck of a career.
Yeah, but he's more physical than Bouwmeester.
Yes, he's more physical than Bouwmeester, and I think ultimately that'll help him out. But I think Jillian has checked out his social media stuff, but I could be wrong about that.
I have. And just because he's attractive doesn't mean that's the only reason I've checked it out.
There you go.
But if anybody's interested in following him, he is on Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram. His Instagram and Snapchat are just his first and last name, no spaces. And his Twitter's a little different. It's his first J_Chychrun. If you guys don't know how to spell it, it's CHYCHRUN. He's got a pretty solid following. Logan Brown was a little less, but on Instagram he's got 18,000 followers, which is pretty impressive. And on Twitter he has 5,000. And he's actually apparently pretty close with Logan Brown. I did not know this. They've got they've tweeted and Instagram pictures with each other. And they're very close. And his mom is also on Twitter. And I thought
they're bros like me and Ek used to be before I started writing further out.
Before you saw other bloggers.
Before I started seeing other bloggers.
Jacob, he likes other sports too. He's very into other activities. He was a lot of stuff about Greg Bryant Jr. was through on his social media, and that was nice to see. And he also loves Skittles. And if you guys don't know me, I am obsessed with Skittles. Like if you put a bag of Skittles in front of me, I will just eat the entire thing. So I was excited.
Right, so wait, if you have a choice and this has happened at the Flyers game, and this is why I say this.
Oh, God.
If there's two things left, and it's Skittles in one jar and M&Ms in the other jar,
Yeah.
which one are you taking?
Skittles, 100% Skittles.
You're crazy. You are absolutely
No, you're just
right.
absolutely wrong. And Jacob Chikrin will agree with me because he had a
He's the only
huge.
other person on earth. Nobody else. Mike, Mike. Chime
No,
in
I'm with
here.
you, but I'm understand. There is nothing more disappointing than thinking you're eating an M&M and actually eating a Skittle.
Yes.
That's the worst.
You guys
Totally
are wrong.
do
Here's
that
the
way.
problem: is you're wrong. You can get such chocolate. There's so many great ways to eat chocolate, and an M&M is not the way I would choose it. I can get dark chocolate, white chocolate, not
We're
an
talking about 100 years of processing chocolate here, and you're saying it's the wrong way.
It's the wrong way. And you know what? I didn't see Jacob Chikrin showing his 18,000 followers M&Ms. I saw him showing Skittles. So just saying.
There are rumors, of course, that my Canadian friends say this to me all the time, that there is a difference between Canadian Skittles and American Skittles.
Ooh.
And I don't know that everyone says Canadian Skittles are much better than American Skittles. I've talked to people about this.
Well, you know what? The middle point is the Smartie. We haven't talked about the Smartie because
Overrated.
the middle part.
Overrated.
Yeah, the Smartie is.
You don't even like a Smartie?
I mean, I like Smarties. They're just not as good as Skittles. Again, if you give
Canada
me
hates
any
you now.
candy, it's gonna be Skittles.
Sorry, Canada.
Skittles are
I'm
the way to my heart. Just saying.
Yeah, no, I Canadian, and then Canadian Smarties are another one too. Maybe that's that's what I'm thinking of. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of American Smarties versus Canadian Smarties. That's the difference.
Oh no, there's a big difference there. There is.
Yeah. By the way, in Canada, the Mars bar is basically the Milky Way in America.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go.
There's always a change. There's always a Canadian-American exchange, and there you go.
Well,
So
for those keeping track, M&Ms have 5.1 calories per gram, and Skittles have 4.166 calories per gram. So Skittles are better for you, I guess, slightly.
I think that's a very relative.
Yeah, I mean, as far as gaining weight goes, it's a little bit less grams per fat.
I have to say the best candy bar out there is the Coffee Crisp.
No, I'm totally
I
in
don't even know
disagreement.
what that is, so it can't be that great.
Like, what are you talking about? Is that from like Mad Men? Did you see that from the 50s? What are you talking about?
It's a Canadian candy bar. It's the best candy bar out there.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think the Nestle Crunch Bar is the best candy bar there is.
Whoa,
No,
no.
I like the Nestle. What is the bar in Canada called? The one that has the holes in it.
Oh, yes, the
Arrows?
The Aero bars. Those
No,
I
you know what's better than that? Like the Crackle. Oh my gosh, it's English. It's an English one. Oh, I forget the name.
Toblerone?
No, it's not Toblerone. No, it's essentially the original Arrow is what it is.
The Aero bar is very good, although I try not to eat them anymore because of the Nestle's guy wanting to like dominate the world's water consumption. So like I try and stay away from that now.
The best chocolate, though, hands down, is Hershey's chocolate. Let's throw that out there. It's just
What?
it is
Wait,
Hershey's
that's, no,
chocolate.
no.
If you have a Hershey's, just a plain old-fashioned Hershey's chocolate
Best
bar.
for the money. I'll
Sorry.
tell you what
We've
I'll tell you
gone
what my
down the rabbit
grandmother's
hole.
choice was. My grandmother's choice was Cadbury, and I think Cadbury's better than Hershey.
I don't know. I went to the Godiva store in New York, and I think Godiva's really overrated. I want to say that. I think Godiva's really overrated, but that's
Wait,
that's
isn't
me.
Godiva owned by Hershey?
Is it?
I think it is.
Well, I just think it's overrated. But
It is expensive, but again, I would.
I think it
Sour
is.
Godiva. The problem is that if I could just eat chocolate, ice cream, and cupcakes and donuts, I would. Like that would be my diet. So this is why I kickbox a lot because I just want to eat all unhealthy things.
Yeah,
Julian, I
that's
would do
nuts.
that. I would do that too if I didn't end up in a diabetic coma. So
so yeah, there you go.
You had your run. That's the way it goes, you know.
That's right. That's right.
If you are interested in following Jacob Chikrin, I highly recommend it. He's very, very pretty. But but also
Oh, no, it's Campbell's Soup that owns Godiva. Sorry.
There you go.
but
There you go. So is Jacob Chikrin also on Instagram? Do we know about
he is
that?
on Instagram. It's just his first and last name, no space.
Got it.
But it's just nice to see see the background and see them interacting with each other when you talk about prospects and see them how they are behind the scenes. So it's always good. It's always fun to see another side of them.
You know what I would like to find out, Jill? Maybe you'd be the perfect person to find this out. When is the cutoff point when every hockey player is going to be on Twitter and Instagram? Like there is a spot at which this is going to happen. Like you can, because every player coming in now for the last couple years pretty much has been.
I think it's going to go in the opposite direction. I think that teams are going to crack down on these players, and they're not going to be on social media.
I disagree because there's too much advertising in there, too much branding. I think you may see teams regulating tweets, and like they may have to have a private and a public Twitter. So that's what I see is happening is they have a private one where their tweets and pictures are protected. But then it gets really complicated when you have prospects because if they can have a public one up until a certain point, and then when do they have to cut it off? So in today's world, it's impossible to tell kids you can't have an Instagram or you can't have a Twitter. So they're going to have one, and then they're going to get cut off. But that stuff is always able to be found. So
they're going to have their own secret ones if anything else. I mean,
there's just too much when it comes to marketing and branding. There's way too much there. For the leagues for any league to shut them out, but you may see them forcing them to go private with their personal stuff.
Couldn't it be contractually controlled? I mean, couldn't it be like as part of your contract you cannot be on social?
No, because of what's happened in the I mean, it could be, and we might get to that point. I mean, anything could be contractually controlled, but what we've seen in the mainstream world, is usually you see this on business accounts all the time. You're going to see this on hockey players' accounts soon enough. Like if some person works for, say, I don't know, Siemens or Johnson & Johnson, you'll see I work at Johnson & Johnson. My opinions are not Johnson & Johnson.
Are not endorsements, is what it says. So yeah, I mean, you could see it going a lot of ways. We haven't seen any NHL players really have any major hiccups. There was one NHL player whose Twitter handle was actually an offensive term, but it was actually a nickname, so that was the only hiccup that he had. So until somebody really messes up, yes, yes.
There was one thing I will say, and players are getting better at this because their teams. I remember when the Flyers and certain players that got traded to another team that won the Stanley Cup were there, those Flyers were not doing very well with social media, and there was a lot of discussion going on about the fact that these players need to be taught how to do social media as a public figure. There's a way to do social media just when you're just a Joe Schmo like you or me, but there's another way to do it when you're really a public figure and you have to do a certain thing. And that's something that teams are finally starting to. And I was saying I don't know why they weren't doing it back then. They're finally starting to get around to teaching. The proper way to do it.
I think they should hire Mike when they want to get the Joe Schmo approach, and then hire Jillian when they want to get the professional approach. I think that's the way to do it.
But again, there's lots of great NHL players to follow. I always say Zach Boychuk might be my favorite person to follow.
Yeah.
The goalie for the Florida Panthers.
Roberto Luongo, obviously.
Luongo is hilarious. Also to follow. For the fan perspective, you get to see another side of it. Like my favorite was Roberto Luongo tweeting about when he was at the All-Star game 2 years ago and just sitting on the bench tweeting. It's funny, but there's a lot of advertising and branding that's there, and that's what these players really are. They have a logo on their chest and they represent a brand, and that's why they get verified on Instagram because they are important to the brand. So I could see it going contractually obligated to have some presence on social media. I could see that happening, especially. Start selling ads on jerseys, especially if that happens.
Yeah. And don't you think? I honestly, some of the players that I follow on Twitter, I root for more because I follow them on Twitter. Like
That's probably the best example of a player whose personality he's allowed the fans into his world. He's so great on social media. He's so great in engaging with other fans. I know lots of people they meet him and then they almost become a fan because he's so engaging on social media.
And it's
huge.
Yeah, but I'm sort of in the middle, right? Because there are guys like Biz Nasty was way better on social media than he was a hockey player. And then there's guys like Henrik Lundqvist that are great at both. And then there's guys that are terrible at social media but great hockey players, and I'm fine with that. I mean,
that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong.
Well, they're just people, right? I mean, remember, these guys' personalities. I mean, that's when you meet them, that's the same way. Like Rush, we've met some people that are idiots, but they're great hockey players, and then you meet guys who are really the nicest guys in the world, but they're not the best hockey players. I mean, it's just when you meet these players, it's the same thing. I mean, what you're seeing in social media is just an extension of how they really are. I mean, and that doesn't mean that they Phil Kessel's not gonna stand out as a great social media guy, but you definitely want him on your team.
You have to stop calling these players people, or it's going to change the show.
Yeah, I know we're not allowed to look at them as people. I know, but that's. But anyway, remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey, and we will talk to you tomorrow.